strictly speaking, if you have multiple coded your items in your build, you must select this option at the top. So once you've done that, click OK. And what it'll do is it'll very quickly, now that would have worked very quickly, so I'm just going to open that job again. As you can see, what it's done is it's taken the original bill of quantities document. I'll just have a look at that. BOQ to be coded. Sorry, we're just getting a little bit of feedback there from just to reiterate some of the new some new people have joined. If you've got a mic active, the background noise can be heard by the other attendees. So if you find there's a bit of background noise in your office, what you can do is in the GoToMeeting control panel, there's a little green mic beside your name, and you can just click on that green mic to mute yourself. Just to be aware that any background noise can be heard by all. Sorry. So to go back to where I was. Our original document, I'll open it up here, the BOQ to be coded, was in a particular elemental type layout, demolitions and alterations, internal walls partitions, and internal walls completions. After coding it up and running the analysis on it, we now have the same job in a trade package type layout. So what I'll do is I'll just drill down behind the builder's work, and what you can see is it has grouped together all of those items that were given the code build. In effect, that's what the analysis function has done. It has looked at the original document, and it is now grouping those items together by code. So if I go into the plastering section, you can see it has grouped all those items that were given the code plast. And then we have two sections here, which will be duplicates of one another, the woodwork supply and the woodwork fixing. If we go into the woodwork supply, you can see those items were given a code in the rate build-up, both a woods code and a wood F, which is woodwork supply and woodwork fixing. These have all been brought out into individual packages of their own. Again, this fourth package, woodwork fixing, will be, as such, the same items that were sent to the woodwork supply package. And finally, the last items we coded are the painting. And I'll go in there, and you can see it has extrapolated out of the original build just those items that were given the code paint. Now, in terms of the resourcing codes, now we can in this instance, we're creating subcontract packages for subcontractors to supply prices for. These resourcing codes can be used for other uses also. If you can think of why you would maybe want to resource of a bill of quantities to extrapolate it out in a different format, you can simply code up the bill, run the analysis on it, and it will resort that particular bill into the format that you require. Just see a question coming in there. Okay. Okay, from Michael. Just saying he's muted. If you can take the option use mic and speakers, you should be able to hear everything that's going on. Just bear with me 2 seconds till I just send Michael a message here on that. Sorry. Okay. Let's continue on. So after you run an analysis, you may, in some instances, get 2 additional trades appended to the bottom. Now, I don't in this instance, but you may get an uncoded section and an incorrectly coded section. So what do they mean? Well, the uncoded section is fairly straightforward, as in the original document, you may have not coded items inadvertently. If that happens, you may need to make note of those items, go back to the original bill of quantities and code those items up and redo the analysis. The final trade that might be added is incorrectly coded, and that would be in an instance where instead of using the code, for instance, paint, you typed in pain, P-A-I-N. The system wouldn't recognize that code, so it marks it as incorrectly coded. Should that happen, all you need to do is come back to the Job Manager screen, delete the analyzed job, go back into your original, code up the items that were uncoded, correct the items that were incorrectly coded, and then come back and do the analysis again. You may need to do that a number of times until you get the resourced job in the exact format that you were looking for. So in this instance, what we're going to do is, and as I say, just to point out that there are multiple uses for these resource codes. We're looking at this morning just resourcing a bill of quantities into trade packages for pricing with subcontractors. However, these resourcing codes or rate codes can be used in a number of ways to resource up individual component parts of rates, for instance, concrete, timber, labor of many different types. So when rates are being built up, these OR codes can be applied to these rates to allow the increase or decrease of rates at the last minute when a tender has been submitted. If somebody if a rate for 20 and 30 concrete has changed compared to what was priced, you can reflect those changes fairly immediately throughout the whole job. Now, the resourcing codes can be used for that also. We'll be looking at that in more detail in the Tender Analysis 2 webinar, which is, as I say, on the 29th of June. But for this morning's webinar, we're really just looking at resourcing a bill into subcontract packages for pricing by subbies. But just to point out that they are used for other uses as well. So once I just come back to the Job Manager screen, and what I'll do is I have a number of jobs prepared earlier so that I don't have to enter in multiple quotes from multiple suppliers. So I've prepared a number of jobs earlier here just to make things a bit slicker when it comes to the webinar. So I have my trade package job. As you can see, it's in the same format as the job we analyzed below. And what I'll do with this job is I'm going to highlight it, and what I'll do is sorry, I have a question in from John Sweaty. Is it necessary to code the whole bill, or can you partially code a bill? E.g., if you want to code painting only, is it necessary to code the whole bill to avoid getting uncoded items? Well, what you can do in that instance, John, is if you want to just extrapolate out of a bill the painting section, and you're not really that interested in the other sections. If in the original bill you code up the items you want to go to the painting section, you can run the analysis. Of course, what you'll get is you'll get one trade called painting, and the remaining items in the original bill will be, everything will be grouped in an uncoded section. So you could simply delete that uncoded section in the analyzed job, print off your painting section, and work with it, maybe send it out to a particular subbie if needs be. So if you want to just take out a individual trade package, yes, you can just code that up in the original bill, run the analysis, and then just use that particular section. You don't necessarily have to code absolutely everything all in one go. Just to point out, I'm not hearing too much back on the speakers here. So if you do have any questions, you have a little chat box down the bottom right-hand corner of your GoToMeeting control panel, and if you type in your question there and hit the send button, a little balloon will pop up on my side, and I can read them and answer them. So in answer to John's question there, no, you don't have to. If you're looking to just extrapolate out a painting section only, as example, you can code up the original bill using just that code, run the analysis, and then print off that individual section for maybe sending out to a subbie. So moving on, what we'll then do is after our job has been resourced and we've sorted, we can then activate the subcontract comparison module, which is on the button bar at the top here, called SCP. And I'm just going to highlight my trade package job, click on the SCP button, and it will activate the job and it will bring it into the subby's summary, we call it. Now, there are a number of things, initial set of things that need to be done in your subbies, and they can be ongoing as well. The first thing I'm going to look at is setting up suppliers, well, firstly setting up trades and then setting up the suppliers and subbies who will be quoting in those trades. What you have on the button bar at the top is a little blue book with a blue S in it. What this gives you access to is the supplier stroke subcontractor database. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on that view supplier icon, and the first screen you'll see is supplier trade list. Now again, what you'll see in here is I've set up builder's work. Behind builder's work, and I'm just highlighting builder's work here and viewing the next level. It then brings me down to the subby detail or supplier detail setup. Now, by default, all you need is a code and a name. In the top section here, there are multiple other fields that you can fill out, which is, effectively a subcontractor stroke supplier database: mobile number, address, phone, email, location, and so forth. So your initial setup will be to set up your trades and then drill down behind each trade and set up the suppliers that will be supplying you in those trades. So as you can see, I've set up builder's work and established a few suppliers below that, stroke subbies. In plastering, I've done the same. I've gone down and I've set up a number of different plasterers. Doors and windows, I've gone in and same, I've set up the codes and names. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you here how we can set up a new trade. So I'm just going to line 5 and then I'm typing in painting. I'll then use the view next level button to drill down behind painting. I'll put in a supplier code. Right. I'll go to the next line. So all you need to establish a supplier or a subby is a code and a name. Of course, at any point in time, you can come back and fill in the remaining detail if needs be, mobile numbers, addresses, and so forth. So once you have your trades established and the suppliers stroke subbies that will be supplying quotes, or who you want to supply quotes for those packages, what you then can do is exit out of your supplier trade list. I'll just point out before I leave here that at any point in time, you can come back into this